Well, we're seeing a trend in lowering standards, but specifically standards for hiring, often to a potentially tragic effect. For example, in Philadelphia, they are reportedly hiring lifeguards who can't swim. In the airline industry, they are looking to attract more diverse pilots, which sounds like a fantastic idea until they reveal that said diverse pilots get put on an accelerated path to being quote unquote expert pilots. Yeah, potentially flying you and your family. And tragically, at least 2 of the Memphis police officers charged with the murder and the fatal beating of Tyree Nichols joined the force after the police department there relaxed its hiring requirements.
And we are going to break this down. Joining us to discuss, former NYC Records Commissioner Giuliani and Bloomberg, administration's Brian Anderson, host of Money Talk with Melanie Collette, and Florida businessman, lawyer, GOP strategist Ford O'Connell. Melanie, I want to start with you. All of these professions are jobs that we entrust our lives with. Is this lowering standards in the name of inclusion? Is this too dangerous?
You know what? It's actually worse than lowering the standards. It's racist. And I'm going to tell you why, because they are suggesting that the reason why there aren't enough black pilots, for example, is because they haven't been able to pass the test, because they had to lower the standard, because we need to accelerate the training. No, that's not what's behind it. Nobody ever approached me and said, hey, Mel, would you like to become an airline pilot? Maybe we just need some outreach and let people know what's available. I'm guessing that people who desire to be pilots don't, that's not a career option that guidance counselors are offering to anyone, let alone black and brown students. So I hate this racist trope that, every single time we want more black and brown people to do something, we need to lower standards. It's racist. It ticks me off. And quite frankly, it's a black cloud that is always over my head in any position I get in. Oh, she must have got there because they lowered the standard.
Really, really interesting point there, Melanie. I appreciate your candor with that. And, as John was pointing out, we're talking about airline pilots who are put on an accelerated path. And I know John did a little bit of a story on that with Frontier Airlines. So Ford, I want to get your thoughts. I mean, I'm just thinking of safety. I'm terrified of flying to begin with. I already hate it, but I do remind myself, okay, these pilots have had decades of experience and training, and if all of the equipment were to go out, they would know what to do. But now you can't even rely on that anymore. Ford O'Connell, will you be traveling? I won't.
Look, I think you're absolutely right. Sacrificing basic competency and required skills to fulfill hiring needs and mandated diversity inclusion requirements, it's going to get people killed. It's very simple, and it's not just pilots. We see it with police officers. We see it with the military, a whole host of things. And why is this brought about? Because of diversity, equity, inclusion. There's a war on work. There's a war on merit. There's a war on the police. And you want to know why we have this terrible situation? It's right there. But nobody's going to say that the solution, the Democrats in particular, are pushing in a lot of cases, is the reason why we don't have people up to snuff in necessary and mandated life-saving positions.
Yeah, very interesting. So the path to prosperity has narrowed in recent decades, especially for those without a college diploma. With this in mind, Pennsylvania drops degree requirements for state jobs. State agencies will now focus on prior work experiences and qualifications instead of educational attainment. Brian, I want to get your thoughts on this. What do you make of this?
Well, having been from government and having a college degree, not everything you have to do in life requires a college degree. And as a matter of fact, with all the wokeism we see in colleges, may not be a bad thing that we don't require it anymore. But seriously, life experiences does count for something. Just, can you do the job? Here's the job. You need a lifeguard. Can you swim? No? Well, okay.
Exactly.
No. Can you fly a plane? No. Okay, maybe not. And those things require further education besides, college degrees.
And I wonder too, a lot of these companies, they're trying to train people that are, new to the job or never had any prior experience. Can you train someone to, 1, swim, and 2, go and save someone's life now?
That's true. But in government, there are jobs that you don't need a college degree for. I mean, how many people use the calculus they took in school?
Oh my gosh.
I've heard that so many times, But so this is a good thing. And by the way, this has been pioneered by Republican governors out there too. So they're kind of following this trend.
But I think that's a good point. I mean, You know, Melanie, we know that getting a college education is incredibly expensive now more than ever. But more and more, a lot of people graduate, don't use the degrees that they've actually earned, or also end up going into professions where, to Brian's point, they simply don't need a degree for what they're going to do. So this doesn't seem to necessarily be about going against education, but it's simply allowing people who are otherwise qualified for a certain job to get those jobs without having to pay for a college education that might be irrelevant.
I don't have an issue with not having a college degree in and of itself, as long as there's other ways to assess whether or not that person is qualified. I will say that college is about much more than whether or not you're smart enough to pass. It's about resilience and discipline and time management and things of that nature, skills that are important pretty much no matter what job you have. So I'm not ready to completely throw away academia. Those who have been watching for a long time know that I'm a former teacher. So I do have a little bit of bias when it comes to getting a good, solid college education.
All right, Ford, we have time for one more response. What do you make of what's happening out there?
Well, look, I think that Brian and Melanie are both right. And as someone who's also been a college professor, what I'm going to say is that we have a licensing nation run amok, and there needs to be more consistency to it, and it needs to be vocation-centric. I don't think a college degree is end-all, be-all. But when it comes to something like being a pilot, you better damn well pass what's needed, or you're going to get people killed.
And we're going to leave it on that note. All right, Brian Anderson, Melanie, Collette, Ford O'Connell, always a fun conversation. Thanks so much for being with us.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys' time.